Hey guys, Henry here, and today we're going to be talking about the last film in the Skywalker Star Wars saga, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So, Star Wars Episode 9 was directed by J.J. Abrams, who directed Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and he is taking the reins back from Rian Johnson, who directed Episode 8, The Last Jedi, which unfortunately was not well received by Star Wars fans. I myself was not a huge fan of Episode 8, but I didn't absolutely hate it, and unfortunately, I sort of do absolutely hate Episode 9. Frankly, this movie was just extremely disappointing. It's just crazy to imagine how we got to this point. Seriously, when The Force Awakens came out, everyone was so hyped. Everyone was so excited to see more of the Star Wars universe, to see what other stories there were to be told. And now I'm completely disinterested with these new characters, and I'm pretty sad and disappointed with what happened to the original characters. I will be talking about some plot points in the film, so there will be spoilers ahead, just giving you guys a warning. If you've seen Episode 9, you've got nothing to worry about. If you haven't, and you want to go see it without anything being spoiled, then probably click out of this video. If you don't care, feel free to stay. So let's start with the good stuff. The visuals. To be honest, the visuals that have come out of this trilogy have been quite amazing. The different planets and locations looked breathtaking, and the design really needs to be commended. There's a clear step up in the visuals and the set designs from the previous films, and this is more than just the technology improving. They really went all out in these films, and they really put in the extra mile to make them look really beautiful. So you can't really fault them for that. And the music as well. John Williams never disappoints. Throughout all of the Star Wars, for all its faults, the music has always been consistently impactful and just classic. And the actors. This trilogy has some seriously good actors. Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson, Adam Driver. And it also allowed for fairly unknown actors at the time in John Boyega and Daisy Ridley to really come into their own and become household names. The actors were not the problem. It was the script and the dialogue that they were given that was the issue. So, talking about the script, the plot, there is a clear problem with this trilogy, and that is that the three movies were not thought out in their entirety during development, so when Force Awakens was made, there wasn't a scaffold or a solid guide for what was to happen in the sequels. All there were these ideas or concepts. So Rian Johnson, he was given The Last Jedi, and was asked to make it his own, and he did it. And no one can fault him for wanting to take bold risks and thinking outside the box, but because he didn't have a vision to follow, an overarching storyline and beats to hit, he was essentially just making it up as he went. And because he wasn't in charge of the ninth film, it didn't really matter where he left things off. That was someone else's problem to deal with. And yeah, let's talk about The Last Jedi. That was fairly divisive. Some people loved it, some people absolutely hated it. It was extremely polarizing. But at least what came out of it was the potential for something new, something we wouldn't typically expect from a Star Wars film, new possibilities. I really like The Force Awakens, but people did say that it's sort of rehashing A New Hope. So J.J. Abrams was playing it safe. And then when Rian Johnson comes out and does The Last Jedi, introduces all these weird new concepts and sort of strays away from what people thought was traditionally Star Wars, then people lose their minds. So you can't have it both ways. And what's happened is now Disney has become reactive. They're taking on this feedback and trying to fix it to give people what they want. And because of that, it's gotten really messy. Rian Johnson tried to do the opposite of that. He tried to give people what they didn't know they wanted, or just not give people what they wanted. And doing the exact opposite is probably not the right way to do it either. Just doing things for the sake of, surprise factor or just being different for the sake of it is probably not the best way to tackle it. Having a thought out idea and committing to that idea is what they should have done. They didn't really commit either way, and it sort of just flip-flopped between the two, and it just ended up in this mess. Rian Johnson tried to expand beyond the binary battle between the Resistance and the First Order, the dark and light side. He tried to explore more grey areas in between, and this is really interesting. This is what I really liked about The Last Jedi. And then J.J. Abrams comes back in and he decides, screw that. Everything that Rian Johnson sort of set up, the doors he left open, he's just closed them. And he just went back to what he set up in The Force Awakens and just tried to continue along those tracks as best he could. And even some lines in this movie were subtle disses at The Last Jedi, and that just left a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest. So JJ brings back the Knights of Ren, all of them absolutely useless, trying to hunt Rey. They were just shown creeping around corners near Rey and the gang, but not actually doing much else. And at the end, they were essentially just a tool for Ben Solo to defeat and to prove that he'd come back to the light side. He also tries to bring back the intrigue of Rey's parentage, which was put to rest in The Last Jedi, but I guess because the fans weren't satisfied with that result, he was doing some damage control and trying to make that plot interesting again. And then just talking about the plot in general, it's essentially a big scavenger hunt. So to defeat the Emperor, they need to get this thing, and they need to find him, and to get this thing, they need to go to this place, and on and on. It felt very video game-like, just getting to one checkpoint only to be given another task, and then going there and completing it, and on and on. And all leading to what? Palpatine. This guy that has not been talked about in the new trilogy, who now has a bunch of new Star Destroyers with planet-destroying cannons. So he essentially has like thousands of Death Stars now. Bringing back Palpatine and introducing these Death Star ships is some serious lack of creativity. Why do they feel like they need to rely on this planet-killing threat over and over? I just don't get it. There are more creative ways to show danger and show evil. And there are more issues with Palpatine. We don't know how he came back. It's not explained. It's just glossed over. Literally in the opening lines and the opening scenes, we see his back, Kylo Ren finds him, and we're just expected to accept that. I found it very hard to accept that he's just back and he's alive and he's just doing stuff and building a million of these Star Destroyers. Those things just don't make logical sense. And from the beginning, you're already super skeptical that this movie is going to be anything good. And Rey being his granddaughter, well, that's not a bad twist in my opinion. Having all that power and the potential for the dark side within her, it makes sense. But they never hinted at that before. They never planted those seeds. So I don't feel like that reveal is really earned. And all that shit at the end, being on Exegol, him wanting to kill her so she can be the Sith Lord and he'll live on in her, and all those Sith dark thingamajigs in cloaks, none of that shit is explained at all. Like, why the hell is there a stadium filled with these shadow guys? I don't know. And they don't tell me. I'm pretty sure the word Sith isn't even said in the first two films, and now the third, it's all about being a Sith Lord to rule the galaxy. These leaps of logic just really ruin the movie for me. Now let's talk about the dialogue. This is a massive issue too, because this movie just has Disney written all over it. If you felt that Disney was prominent in The Last Jedi, it's just compounded in this film. It's trying so hard to have that Marvel-esque humor, the witty one-liners. It didn't work. In those big crossover Marvel movies, there are so many characters. They don't all get much dialogue and screen time. So they had to craft those lines meticulously to refer to past movies and moments to build those characters in those quick and fleeting moments of dialogue. And they did really well to trim the fat and have those lines be extremely meaningful and impactful. Meanwhile, in The Rise of Skywalker, they have so many of these lines between Finn, Rey, Poe, and C-3PO all throughout the movie. The interactions never get any deeper than just quick, witty one-liners. These three characters were meant to be the Han, Luke, and Leia of this trilogy. Yet to be honest, other than their charm, which I guess they just have as good actors, I don't really feel like we get to know any of them very well, nor their true relationships with one another, even though we've now had 3 movies with them. I mean, at one point, Finn is trying to say something to Rey because he thinks they're going to die. Probably, I love you, or something of that nature. But that literally is not carried on. He says that once, and at the end, they have a 3-person hug, and that's it. Rey goes off and does her own thing, and no one cares about Finn anymore. Finn and Kylo Ren were my favorite characters coming out of The Force Awakens. Finn literally is a stormtrooper who defected. His story is so interesting and compelling, but I guess because Rian Johnson didn't give a shit and he didn't want to carry that through, J.J. Abrams couldn't be bothered to continue it either. What an absolute waste. And another character, Rose. Although I didn't really like her in The Last Jedi, I feel so bad for what happened to her. She literally gets cast aside just like that. Yeah, I mean, Rian Johnson, I feel like he was trying to build her up to be something new. She was someone that was trying to get into the middle of the action. She would have been one of the crew. But JJ's like, I didn't know who the hell Rose is. She's not part of my narrative, so I just need to put one scene in there to show that, you know what, she's not going for some reason. Finn says okay, and she just stays there. Done. And of course, one of my most hated things, exposition dumps. They just happened all throughout this film. Some character just in the side or in the background, just fully explaining exactly what needs to be done and how and what happens if they don't do those things, as if the audience couldn't make those connections themselves. Overall, this movie, it just felt like a 4-hour movie crammed into 2 hours. It's super choppy, pacing's off, everything just felt like it was crammed in there just to make everyone happy, like, yeah, this is what you wanted, right? But it's just too much fan service. It leans so heavily on nostalgia and bringing back moments from previous films, which is, it's fine, but then it just seemed to give in to every fan demand from people on Twitter and the internet. Like giving Chewie his medal, bringing back Lando Calrissian. This film literally felt like it was begging the fans to take them back, and by doing that, it just really did it no favors. Again, I feel like it just is seriously suffering from not having a solid through line between all three movies and a solid vision and just committing to that vision, you know? Giving into what people want and what people are saying on the internet just to please fans is not the way to go. In general, this film absolutely did not fulfill what I wanted in a Star Wars movie. I honestly had hoped that somehow this film would miraculously tie in the trilogy geniusly and be a great finish to the Skywalker saga. But yeah, that is not the case at all. Honestly, for me, I think it's the worst Star Wars movie, period. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content from me, please be sure to subscribe. If you've seen The Rise of Skywalker, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I just want to know what people think of the movie. Are you excited to see more Star Wars, or, you know, are you just cool to just chill out for a little bit? Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys next time.